We are going to hear from Kenneth Lekashman of Remedies.
Hi, everyone. How's my volume? Am I too loud, too quiet? Cool. Oh, I heard that that's poisonous. Let's talk about that. My name is Kenneth Lekashman, and right now, over the last decade or so, it's safe to say that medicinal mushrooms have been having a moment with no sure sign of slowing down. And I think the people all in this room are better equipped than I to tell you about how psychoactive medicine is poised to change the state of how we treat mental health in America. And I'm going to now talk to you about Amanita muscaria, a mushroom that is frequently referred to as, isn't that the really poisonous one? And I'm going to be telling you about why I'm using an extract for it for a topical for chronic pain relief. And I'm going to be trying to show you that this mushroom is blue. And no, I'm not under the effect of any sort of psychoactive substance. I'm actually referring to a blue ocean strategy by Chan Kim and Renee Mobarn, which they describe uncontested markets as blue ocean strategies versus red oceans, which are highly competitive, and it becomes a price market. What I'm trying to do is reinvent the topical analgesic market using Amanita muscaria extracts. So how'd I get here? Well, like every story, I had a catalyst moment. So part of the psychoactive movement, isn't it? This past fall, my dad had a family health scare. This was a result of his type 2 diabetes, which has been poorly managed for the last decade. You see, my dad has this condition called peripheral neuropathy. And if you're not familiar with it, it's frequently experienced as burning hands and the feet. And at the time, he was mostly sitting on in his bathrobe on the couch, incredibly unmotivated after he got this devastating news from his doctor. And so I, at the time, was already looking at mushrooms. And I was looking specifically at lion's mane, which anecdotally is something people will take for peripheral neuropathy. This prompted me to look to the mushroom kingdom in general for results and potential solutions. And I came across Amanita muscaria. It turns out that this is about a 3,500-year-old remedy frequently used in countries like Eastern Siberia, where they would actually wrap a poultice around a limb to reduce inflammation and treat arthritis. I looked into it further. I found an article published in October of 2023 from the Korean Journal of Pain referencing muscimol from Amanita muscaria as a highly effective treatment for neuropathic pain. This got me curious. I went ahead, I got a hold of some Amanita muscaria, I did a decarboxylation in my kitchen, I made a bomb, and I gave it to my dad. And he went from sitting on the couch to doing 10,000 steps a day with me. So, I'm just going to talk like this. So, at the moment, feed me into this larger problem of chronic pain, which is a silent epidemic in the country. Turns out there are 20 million other individuals, just like my dad, who have peripheral neuropathy. And nearly 31% of them currently have a chronic pain. And collectively, that's about $100 pain man as a result of overprescribing opioids to treat pain. So doctors have been looking for alternative treatments, and one of their favorite treatments are topical analgesics. The reasons why doctors like topical analgesics is they provide targeted pain relief. They're easy to use. They have a very favorable safety profile, and they provide relief across multiple types of pain. On the right, these are some of the most popular over-the-counter products that you will see for treating pain in the topical format. You have your menthol products like Aspartame, Bengay. You have your capsaicin products like Capsaicin, which overrides the neurons where you have chili pepper. You have your lidocaine products like Salonpas, and you have your combination products like Tiger Balm and CBD. And CBD, whether you think it works or isn't, open this door for people to look to the plant and fungal kingdoms for medicines, for treatments. And now I want to reinvent those perceptions about efficacy using Amanita muscaria. And so why does this work? Well, you may not know this, but Amanita muscaria is actually a powerful GABA agonist. You see, it has this novel alkaloid. That means it doesn't occur anywhere else in nature, called muscimol. And muscimol goes in and binds to GABA. And GABA is associated with relaxation, as well as regulating pain and sleep. It's also been shown to be up to 140% more efficacious than GABA is itself. A lot of medications, like benzodiazepines and gabapentinoids, already are targeting GABA, and these are used to treat pain and other conditions. And so if you're not familiar with the market for topical analgesics, it's actually pretty big. It's $3.08 billion, and it's growing really fast. The biggest growth is coming from chronic pain sufferers, as well as completely on the other side of the health spectrum with athletes and sports players. Through talking to organizations like the Western Peripheral Neuropathy Association, I have an insight that when someone gets a pain condition like peripheral neuropathy, they spend the first 2 years trying to figure out what the hell is going to help them. And as a result, they try almost 10 different over-the-counter products on average. That's because if you ask a doctor, they'll tell you across pharmaceuticals, alternative treatments, over-the-counter products, they're at best 40% effective. And so we think we've got the right thing with our Era Pain Relief 3. For starters, it's a fast-acting analgesic. Muscimol typically has onset effects in as little as 15 minutes. It's used as needed. Many traditional pharmaceuticals like gabapentin are great, but they require you to take a pill once daily. With that, you have to have a series of side effects that you have to take on. Side effects like gaining anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds. Side effects like brain fog and lethargy. Muscimol has also been looked at for being a sleep aid. You see, I have an uncle who also has peripheral neuropathy, and he'll tell me that at nighttime, when there's less active stimuli, that's when the pain comes. That's when he notices his peripheral neuropathy. So what we're going to do is we're making this precision dose topical formulation where we're in this Goldilocks zone, where we've got enough muscimol in there to be able to provide an analgesic effect, but not so much to induce any sort of psychedelic experience. And finally, from a regulatory perspective, Amanita muscaria is considered a food product under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, which means we don't have some of the same issues that psilocybin would. So to do this right, we built the team. And right now, this is the core team. There's myself. I have 10 years working for companies in the natural grocery space. I've worked for Instacart, Bonza, California Ranch, Olive Ranch, and Newman Key in roles in category management, as well as demand forecasting. I'm not a doctor. I'll come out and say it. But I went and found him. His name is Stephen Young, and he has a PhD in food science and technology. And he has over 12 years working in encapsulation technologies in food science, business, and research. He's also worked on other mushroom startups like Mycocon. This is a really tricky regulatory question. I'm navigating I have to loop a really tight needle with a thread. And I found Anthony DeLizza, who's a professional advisor, to help me navigate this. He is a professional startup advisor, and he works specifically with medical device and wellness companies. And he has a master's in medicinal chemistry, and he actually studied Amanita muscaria during that time. We've accomplished a lot in a very short time. I started this company last June, specifically looking at supplements like the Stamet 7 and sleep donuts. But then this past fall in October, when I had the incident with my dad, everything changed. My focus was entirely on Amanita muscaria. In December, I found Stephen and Anthony, and from there I went and applied to the UC Davis Life Science Innovation Center with their business incubator. This past March, I was accepted. And this April, I was featured in the Western Peripheral Neuropathy Association newsletter for the work that we're doing. And this last weekend, we had our first public appearance. We went and introduced our Era Pain Relief Cream at the San Rafael New Living Expo. That's an event focused on holistic health and wellness. Here, we were able to talk to people, get feedback, and enroll over 40 different individuals in our consumer preference panel on Amanita muscaria. We're at a really exciting stage. For starters, we've identified our strategic co-manufacturing partner. And as a CNG produced product, will actually be compliant with the FDA monograph process. That means we can go over the counter. Our proprietary formula is engineered for increased penetration, and we're ready to begin testing now because we don't have those regulatory hurdles that other psychoactive substances do. We want to do our first production run, and to give ourselves some runway, we want to raise 900K. Those funds will be split across staffing, production, fulfillment, marketing, regulatory, and research. And so you've heard me talk, you've maybe learned a thing or two about Amanita muscaria, and maybe now if you see a blue mushroom, you'll come by and talk to me during the happy hour, make an introduction, tell me a story about a loved one with a pain condition. I'd love to chat further. That's my contact information. I'll open it up for Q&A.
Hey,
Given that it's
Brennan.
difficult to create a fungal culture with Amanita, how are you going to source the muscimol?
Amanita muscaria in the country, but we also have a few others. We also have specific relationships with numbers of foragers who are in the Pacific Northwest in California. A lot of people look at it and they're like, Richard, that's poisonous. I don't want to touch it. There isn't a lot of issue in getting it at this time.
Is there fluctuation with the supply chain from the foragers, or is it pretty consistent?
So there is definitely a seasonality to this product. At this time, that's not our hurdle. Our hurdle isn't on the supply side. Our hurdle is going to be on education and IP.
Yeah, hey, Kenneth, on that IP front. Kenneth, on that IP front.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so right now we have a proprietary formula, and what we're going and what we've set the stage in terms of our technical pipeline is to create a novel form of encapsulation on muscimol for delivery.
I think, Brendan, you had a question as well.
Yeah, it was more on the IP front. You know, Psyched Wellness came out with their GRAS Amanita product, right? And obviously that's an oral product, not a topical.
Right.
But I'm just curious if you've checked out the IP there and you know what's available.
I'm absolutely familiar with Psyched Wellness, and they are promoting it more as an ethanogenic product. They have a proprietary extraction called AME1. I'm very familiar with it. We have no affiliation with that organization.
So how many sit-ups did you say?
I said, oh, it's 10,000 steps.
Okay.
10,000
Okay.
steps,
It's
to
like,
be
wow,
clear.
that's a lot of sit-ups, brother. You had my attention very quickly. So my real question is, if Paul Stamets were in the room, what would he say about this business?
Interesting. So Paul Stamets is on record not being in favor of Amanita muscaria. He famously had a bad trip with its cousin Amanita pantherina. My issue with the way he consumed it is, one, he consumed a very, very large dose. He wasn't microdosing. We're very much microdosing. He took it in the same way somebody might take psilocybin. These are not the same. They shouldn't be treated the same.
And then you said wholesale earlier.
There are a number of wholesalers out there who will sell Amanita muscaria caps.
So that's your method of distribution. You're going to be selling.
We're going to be selling.
I saw retail
these.
$29.99.
We're going to be selling topical pan relief. Think CVS, think Walgreens, whole aisle pan relief products. We're going to be the mushroom.
How are you going to market this?
We're initially going to be starting through direct to consumer. We're going to be focusing on health and wellness and healthy aging as our primary messaging that we're sending out.
We have a lot of this in our backyard.
Really? Have you ever tested it? You should.
It's poisonous.
It is poisonous, but like many other things that are poisonous in the plant and fungal kingdom, it's all in the processing as well as the dosing. I agree.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, judges. And now we have Caitlin back to talk to us about cacti.
Well, it's been a really great afternoon. Okay, let's see if it works now. Okay, it's been a great afternoon learning from all of you, and I'm really, really thrilled to present cacti to you. This is actually the first time I'm pitching publicly and finally getting to reveal what we've been working on. So I'm pretty excited to be here this afternoon. We are on a mission to develop better therapies for trauma and chronic pain. The problem of pain is so big that the size is 1 in 4 people suffer from chronic pain. 1 in 5 people have a mental health condition. What's really interesting to me, though, is that 79% of pain patients have a mental health condition, and the reverse is also true. Of those who have a mental health condition, they also are suffering with chronic pain. And the treatment options, the current standard of care, is failing patients miserably. And no one likes to be a statistic, so I'm going to tell my own story. I am one of the millions of Americans suffering with chronic pain. My story started decades ago, and I did spend decades in debilitating chronic pain, unable to have the job outside the home I wanted, unable to take care of my children in the way that I wanted. I was dismissed and discounted by the medical community. The pain was in my head, supposedly. And I couldn't find relief. No pain medication was working. So my mental health declined in those years of just suffering terribly with pain. Until one surgeon finally saw the problem and was willing to operate on me. The day that I came out of surgery, I can only describe as the most euphoric experience of my life. When you go from constant debilitating pain to pain-free, happiest day of my life. That should be like your wedding day or your birth of your first child, but if you've been in constant pain, you'll know what I mean. I went on to become a competitive triathlete to celebrate a year after my surgery. I placed 5th in the Boston Triathlon. And although my story is one of recovery, because pain and mental health are so connected in the brain, when I'm super stressed, the pain is right there with me, just like when the pain nerve was pinched in the first place. So what's going on there? Well, chronic pain involves parts of our brain where pain becomes suffering. It was really the work of Clifford Wolff and Harvard's neuroplasticity research group that first suggested that we may be treating chronic pain all wrong. You see, pain only becomes suffering when a part of the emotional brain called the ACC gets involved. And the result is a cycle of pain-related anxiety, fear, depression. That's an ongoing cycle, a loop called central sensitization. Now, I've heard some people describe central sensitization of pain like a false fire alarm, but I assure you, to the patient suffering, there is nothing false about it. It feels very real. The problem with current pain meds is that they don't address central sensitization of pain. They are a Band-Aid at best, dulling the pain, and they are addictive, lethal at worst. Exhibit A, the opioid crisis. So whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a veteran with PTSD or someone sitting for long hours in an office job with high levels of toxic stress, what happens for the patient is you're often treated separately for all these different conditions. You're giving an antidepressant, an anti-anxiolytic, a analgesic in one of these categories. I talked to a patient last weekend who said, I'm on 15 different prescriptions and I'm still not managing my pain. Now, you may be already asking, what is a pain patient doing building a pharmaceutical company? To the question earlier, to one of the previous companies, why you, why when, why now? Well, who is more motivated to solve the problem than the person impacted by the problem? So a little more of the backstory, though, on how Cacti began. The groundwork for this research really was in Clifford Wolff's lab over a decade ago. And I only came into the picture after my training in developmental psychology at Harvard. I began following the research of Gould-Dolin's work on reopening critical learning periods, and I started asking the curious questions of the pain neurobiologist from Clifford's lab. Could we repair pain plasticity? Could we reopen a critical learning period in the brain and yes, address some of these core drivers of the pain? One of those pain neurobiologists happens to be my life partner, So it was a lot of ongoing conversations about this problem and whether we could design medicine that actually respected the psychology of pain. So our solution was born. It's a two-pronged approach that utilizes psychedelic-derived medicine to reset pain amplifiers, relieving chronic pain at its source. This is a more holistic approach to pain that doesn't ignore our psychology and how our psychology does influence how we experience and process pain. The first platform we have is engineered to address the emotional drivers of pain by repairing disordered brain circuits in the ACC that underlie conditions like fibromyalgia, CRPS, and low back pain. Our second platform addresses peripheral sensitization in conditions like osteoarthritis, cluster headache, to name a few, diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And we are doing this by delivering psychedelics directly to the damaged pain sensing neurons that make the condition so painful. This approach uses a known mechanism of action invented by our team in Clifford's lab, an approach that's already validated in clinical trials for other indications, but with astounding results. So our competitive advantage, enter AI, they say you have to have AI in every pitch. Well, this is the real deal. In addition to the AI expertise of my co-founder, Lee Barrett, who most recently directed a $24 million DARPA grant designing new pain drugs, we also have access to this cutting edge new tool that revolutionizes animal behavioral work to rapidly accelerate clinical candidate selection. Now, in this audience, some of you may be familiar that we use something called the head twitch response to screen psychedelics. That assay is very costly and it requires using magnets and ear tags and other shenanigans. This tool lets us do it in freely behaving mice, automatically scoring it with the AI. So we've identified other psychedelic behaviors such as hyperlicking that you're seeing there to further differentiate the effect between different types of psychedelics. Now, I can't show you everything that we're doing with this technology, which, by the way, I'm so excited that they're building out a vivarium space here at Aquilius because that's much, much needed for all startups. And I hope they'll have this black box technology here soon. So this is a pain model, and you can see which paw he is favoring. And if we can see it with the naked eye, imagine how well AI is scoring it. So here's our market, trying to fly through this. So we're essentially looking at an $80 billion total addressable market in the chronic pain space. We segment that down into $60 billion for some of our different chronic pain indications, and that can be addressed with one of our two approaches. I'm probably the proudest of this slide because we are a pre-seed. We're in the pre-seed phase, and this is all that we've accomplished after receiving our first check less than a year ago. So we have synthesized 9 novel chemical entities. We have began our in vitro characterization at Queen's University. We have done AI behavioral work at Salk Institute right here in San Diego. And now I have scientists here in San Diego that are anxious to build out cacti here in the next phase of things. So here is the incredible team behind this work. Looks like it might have gotten cut off in our, yeah, it's like half of the team. I couldn't have done all of this without this interdisciplinary, amazing multimodal team. I have to highlight Nick Andrews here because he's right here in San Diego leading the core at the Salk Institute. He's one of the world's leading animal behaviorists. So he's doing all of my screening work with this black box technology. My co-founder, Lee and David, a whole team of pain immunologists, pain pharmacologists, pain neurobiologists. We have a deeply expert team. So why invest in us? Well, we do have really strong IP, composition of matter IP, that's for new chemical entities. A team that's worked together for over a decade, is very cohesive, not to mention very tenacious. And we have multiple shots on goal that offer several different off-ramps to sell assets at different points in their development. So I'm looking for connections to investors today to close out our angel round of $500,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. We'll open it up to the judges.
So in terms of the competitive advantage, you mentioned the black box technology you have access to, but you also so why is it that you have access to this black box technology and others don't?
That's a very good question. I should have highlighted that better. My co-founders are inventors in that technology, and that technology has been developed in Clifford Woolf's lab over the last decade, but now it is a commercially available product that CROs, vivariums could purchase. So that's why the Salk Institute has purchased a black box device. It's a competitive advantage for us because we're the only psychedelic company in the space using this technology, and it accelerates our lead candidate selection. But it is a product that, it's a business completely separate from ours that can sell to any pain company. So it's like first mover advantage for us.
Any other questions from the judges?
Hey, Caitlin, can you expand on use of proceeds?
If I heard the question right, can I expand on use of proceeds? So if I finish out this angel round, is that what you're alluding to? We have
Yeah, we have one of
designed-
our questions here on our panel list.
Okay. Yeah. So we've designed out the next set of assays. We would really like to tease apart what is the anti-inflammatory effect in some of our NCEs and what's the analgesic effect. So yeah, it's around full proof of concept data to fully validate our IP. That's what this angel round will help us finish out. And then we'll move straight in from proof of concept. We'll be moving into, marching forward toward IND enabling package. We do have the HEAL initiative interested in what we're doing. DARPA is interested as well, because this is a first-in-class family of drugs to repair pain neurons instead of masking, killing, numbing them is a pretty exciting approach.
Richard, did you have a question?
I'm just trying to understand where you are today. So do you have lead candidates that you're doing preclinical tests, or you're still modifying your molecule? Or
Yeah, very good question. We are in the preclinical stage. We do not have our lead candidate selected yet. We do have some promising, promising candidates, but I've only synthesized 9 of the NCEs. And so we'd like to do a lot more testing, iteration on those. And then we haven't synthesized any from our central nosoplastogen program yet. And that's an entirely different mechanism of action, different target that I'm not ready to reveal yet today.
Okay, thank you so much. And our last presenter, a round of applause. And our last presenter today is Kevin Canella. We have Kevin back to talk to us about Think You Like.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Who thought this was over? Sorry, there's one more. Okay. My name is Kevin Canella, and I am the co-founder and executive director at Thank You Life. Can you all hear me okay? Cool. So one thing I want to just start with is we're a 501c3 nonprofit. And so we don't have any equity to give away. And so we're really not looking for investment dollars. We're really just looking for your philanthropic dollars. So a little bit of a switch in that. What we do is we eliminate the we eliminate the financial barriers to psychedelic therapy. And I'll get into what that means. So the mental health crisis, I think a lot of us are familiar with this. What was fascinating that we found out is over 50% of millennials and over 75% of Gen Z have either major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder. Absolutely insane, to be honest. psychedelic therapy is a solution. And as I was saying before, ketamine assisted psychotherapy is really the only legal form of psychedelic therapy at the moment. And yeah, here are some just numbers that really show the efficacy. Okay, I want to unpack ketamine and ketamine assisted psychotherapy a little bit. I would say there's really two forms here. There's ketamine assisted psychotherapy, where there's a therapist in the room. The client is really looking to unpack their traumas, move their traumas through their nervous system and heal. The therapist will help them integrate difficult experiences and will also help them integrate the more spiritual experiences. Then there's also ketamine infusions. This is often done with no therapist. A client's left in the room by themselves, and there's little to no integration that happens. So at Thank You Life, we're supporting clinics who do ketamine-assisted psychotherapy and not just ketamine infusions. A ketamine, or we call it CAP. So a CAP treatment protocol is 4 to 6 sessions. Each session's $600 to $1,200. There's typically 1 or 2 prep sessions, and typically an integration session at the end of each, or after each CAP session. Overall, we're looking at like $3,000 to $12,000. I know that's a huge range, but it really kind of depends on where you are in the U.S. and yeah, and just like how much each session costs. So what does a session look like? It's 2 to 3 hours. There's 2 main routes of administration. I mean, IV is also used, but for this, it's really intermuscular or a sublingual lozenge. Often what it looks like is the client and the therapist will discuss the intention, really orient the client to the session, to this psychological journey that they're about to take, and help them orient toward any relevant psychological material that they want to unpack during the session. The client lies down with an eye mask. As we were talking about, there's some like a journey playlist that's played. And the effects of the ketamine are very short, especially compared to MDMA and psilocybin and other things. So IM typically lasts 45 minutes. Sublingual lasts more about 90 minutes. So the cost, what we really do is help people get over this initial hump here. And so, we estimate that for ketamine, it's about $7,500. Now, if we really like roll this out over 10 years, doing ketamine upfront is way more cost effective than the standard of care, which for depression is estimated to be $5,200 per year out of pocket. So if we can get people to do a ketamine protocol, it will really get them on this more gold trajectory. But $7,500 out of pocket is very, most people just cannot do that. So this is where we come in and help cover the costs. So how do we do this? We give financial assistance to people who cannot afford psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. We currently partner with 75 clinics all over the United States. Again, these are CAP clinics specifically, and we will be rolling out to MDMA when that becomes available, likely or hopefully next year. So who's we? As I said, I'm the co-founder and executive director. I'm a psychotherapist by trade. And my co-founder, Dr. Dan Engel, is a real thought leader in the psychedelic space and has been for decades. Our provider network, by the end of 2025, we hope to be at about 200 providers. And what I really want to highlight here is our vetting process. And we estimate that only about 300 of the 1,500 ketamine providers will meet the criteria that we have for our process. And I think this is really what's going to differentiate us is this high standards that we have. So there's a number of other organizations who are also doing client assistance. We're the only ones who have a national reach for the general population. And we're also the only ones who like really have a provider network built out and really have the most penetration into the cream of the crop, the most highly vetted clinics. So our impact last year was our first year of operations. Our goal is to give away $100,000, and we were able to do that to 37 people. This year, we're hoping to give away $375,000 to 130 people, and we are well on our way to do that. This is my favorite slide here. We collect pre and post data on everybody who comes through. We collect information about their depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms, and PTSD symptoms. And we've found average decreases in their symptoms between 65 and 70%. A couple reasons I think we're finding such amazing results. The people that are coming to us are very sick. They're also very motivated, and the clinics that we're working with are really top notch, the cream of the crop. Our financials, I think we really have the right size team to scale this service. And before we really scale our impact, we really want to make sure that we have the right kind of base for our operations. And for us, that means 2 years of runway. And that will cost us about $800,000. And that's what we're here to ask for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll open it up to the judges.
Just curious, is this therapy long lasting, or people keep coming back after a period of time?
Yeah, so it really depends. I think a lot more research could be done on that. One thing we have back here is that 2/3 of people reported sustained improvement over 6 months. So that's just that's from some research that's been done. I would say overall, more data needs to be collected on that. I think the MDMA research is really showing sustained results. And I think that's because they're doing psychotherapy with the experience. And that's essentially why we're doing the same thing. So I think the ketamine assisted psychotherapy will have much more long lasting results than ketamine infusions. And I think there can be a lot more research done.
Hey, Kevin, it's Brendan. Can you hear me?
Hey, Brendan.
All right. I'm going to ask the same question I asked to the other clinic guys. Given the bloodbath of the clinic space, what are you going to do differently to make sure that you survive up until at least the legalizations or the wave or other catalysts?
Yeah. Good question. So, we're not a clinic, so we just work with clinics. But of course, their success and ability to be profitable is a huge concern of ours. And to me, there's really two pieces here. One is our main mission. If we can build out a fund of a few $1,000,000 that we have to give away, we will allow these clinics to say yes to a large swath of the population that they're not currently able to say yes to. And I believe that will help their profitability immensely. That's the most direct way for us. But something I was actually speaking with Jeff about yesterday is we are really looking for a revenue stream outside of donations. We think if we're able to build out a revenue stream outside of donations, it'll just make us more sustainable. And one thing that we're looking to do with that is how can we take our provider network and really boost them and help them. And what we're seeing is because it's so difficult for them to be profitable, that's the main goal here. If we can help them drive their profitability, they may be willing to pay us something. So we're exploring a clinic membership sort of model. Right now, our provider network is a free thing. We vet them. And if we choose to partner with them, it does not cost them any money. But we're looking to, we're just doing some basic market research at the moment about what sort of suite of services and offerings we could actually offer to the clinics to help them with their profitability. And I think a lot of what that's going to look like is, there's a couple different services that we might partner with that will give them referrals, and then also just pointing them toward business development resources that we can connect them with.
Yep. So I really appreciate the mission, as we talked about as recently as yesterday, and a little bit of a pickle trying to imagine sustainability around a nonprofit that is, doing a noble thing to be in support of for-profits, right? And thinking that as you were thinking out loud about revenue generating streams, whether you set up a for-profit arm, connected to your nonprofit, and or whether perhaps with the aim to generate revenue for your organization for Thank You Life, whether perhaps you could have some arrangement with the upwards of 300 organizations over the next 24 to 30 months that you imagine supporting, whether the exchange can be, we will give you money to support your organization, and in return, you will share with us data so that you can be the gatherer of data, whatever that looks like, to then find a way to responsibly monetize that data to then help your organization sustain and grow. How that's done, I'm not sure, but it's a thought.
Yeah, I appreciate that thought. And one thing we've been looking at is we've been collecting this data, but we've also had the thought of like, okay, these are just the clients that we're sponsoring. Can we also have access to all the other clients going through them? And I appreciate that. I'm going to take that with me.
One more question. So it seems like a lot of the value add with your nonprofit is the network that you create and the being like a mediator between the patient and the treatment center, the clinic. I'm wondering, what is the vetting process for a potential patient and that you would donate to on their treatment, and then what is the vetting for the clinics that you partner with?
Yeah, great questions. So we really leave. We want the clinics to do the vetting process for the clients in terms of their their readiness for CAP and for ketamine. So we trust our clinics with that piece. And then in terms of their financial readiness, we have the clinics walk them through really just a conversation. Very similar to, it's very typical in the therapy industry for therapists to do sliding scale with people. And we really just invite that same kind of conversation for our clinics to have with the potential clients. And at the moment, we don't want to make any hard lines, because we're finding people from San Francisco who may be making over 6 figures, but they're a single parent and teacher, and they're still not able to afford this. And because they're in SF, they're looking at more like the 10 to 12,000 price tag. So we don't want to make any kind of lines in the sand in terms of, oh, you make over this much, that means you're not eligible, or that will only support so much. So we're small enough where that makes sense. And my hope is that having the clinics have that conversation with the clients can make it scalable, but we'll see. In terms of the clinics, there's so a lot of it's word of mouth, how they find out about us. And I would say overall the ketamine industry, in terms of the clinics, is a pretty small industry. So there's a handful of trainings that we know about. And then, like I said, one of the biggest delineations is whether they're doing ketamine-assisted psychotherapy or ketamine infusions with no mental health support. So I would say that's our biggest sort of cutoff. And then checking what sort of training that they've done, that they have malpractice insurance, a lot of kind of basic pieces like that.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you to the judges. Judges, if you can please fill out the survey using the QR code so we can give our wonderful presenters some feedback. If there's other investors in the room, especially that also want to give feedback, These QR codes will be up here, so that will be great. It'll be helpful for our presenters. Obviously, as Serena and I's unintending matching will show you, we clearly believe psychedelics has a really bright future. We really thank each and every one of you for coming today. Everyone is here for a reason. This is not just some usual business networking event. Everyone is here with purpose, with an intention to create impact, and it's really beautiful, and it's a really amazing thing that we're all united in. So with that, big thanks to Mifang and the Achilles team for organizing. We at Radical Law are so thrilled to be a part of this community and this emerging space. Please find us. Please come talk to us. Please find the other speakers from today. I know everyone's eager to connect. And please enjoy happy hour.